Adding new stories into the Jurassic World franchise, the Netflix series Chaos Theory dives into the world's intricate connections after the events of Fallen Kingdom. With a dangerous dino-filled landscape, mysterious inner workings, and cliffhangers on every episode, this series will surely leave you easily entertained.
No, I am the father.
And here we go.
That belongs in a museum.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
This is Sparta!
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Dr. Grant, my dear Dr. Sattler, welcome to Jurassic Park.
Welcome back to Easily Entertained. I'm your host, Bryson Olson, here to talk to you about all things entertainment. Today we are talking about the series on Netflix that was released on May 24th, part of the Jurassic World franchise, Chaos Theory. It is the sequel series to the other animated show that Jurassic World has done on Netflix called Camp Cretaceous, which we'll be talking about a little bit more so we can kind of explain more on the show. But it's kind of a fun little series that is technically made for kids, but I had a great time. I binged it all this last Thursday and was up till 2 because I was hooked on every episode that I just had to keep watching because, I'm a big Jurassic Park and World fan and I just love dinosaurs. So I was just ready. I was ready for more Jurassic World content. And once I saw that it was on Netflix, even though I was a little bit late to realizing it was on Netflix, once I saw it, I binged the crap out of it. And so that's what we're talking about today. So let's get into it. To kind of get you up to speed on Chaos Theory, first let's talk about Camp Cretaceous and kids surviving the island during the Jurassic World events. So Camp Cretaceous, the prequel series to Chaos Theory, is about 6 kids who all go on this little camp thing. They all won a sweepstakes to go on a camp in Jurassic World and kind of get some behind the scenes and tour the island a little bit, a little adventure type deal. And they're all young kids. But what ends up happening, if you remember the events of Jurassic World, the Indominus breaks out and things kind of go a little bit crazy. So in the midst of everything, there's all these kids and they have to kind of outrun the Indominus at times. So it kind of connects it into the main world a little bit, which I think is really fun that they're able to do that and not just have it entirely on its own. And they're still kind of bringing things in from the main series franchise. And, that kind of keeps everything locked in, and that I find really enjoyable. But so these kids, they have to hide from the Indominus, or they also they get left behind on the island in the midst of everything in the evacuation. The instructors for the little camp could not find them, and so they assumed they made it out with the evacuation, but then they weren't ever there. And so they have to survive the island with now all these dinosaurs roaming around, and they end up going to other islands. They go, I think, to Site B. I don't know for sure. I don't think they do, but they do go to another island that's in that same island chain, and another company's running it, not Biosyn, who we know in the Jurassic World Dominion movie, which they also managed to connect with Camp Cretaceous as well, but they have another company. It's called Manticore, but it's similar things. It's a lot of genetic not mutation, but genetic. I'm trying to think of the actual word. Genetic science. I don't know. But that is pretty much their same premise, is similar to InGen or Biosyn in the Jurassic Park universe and trying to mess with nature a little bit. But the series follows these 6 kids: Darius, Kenji, Ben, Sammy, Yaz, and Brooklyn. And they are all kind of going throughout this. Some people like the dinosaurs, some people don't, but they usually end up saving dinosaurs because they think it's cruel to, just let them die in some point. So they kind of save them from themselves, from humans in the case of the other island. But it is just an interesting little series, and I find it very fun. I feel like the characters are pretty corny at times because they are kids, but for the most part, they do feel like real characters, and it has a story that these kids fit in. And although they survive, which, most kids probably would not survive on an island full of dinosaurs, these ones do. And they also just manage to kind of get along and everything, and still also it tells a good story, I think, is the main point, is that it's a Jurassic World story that I think it solves a lot of nuance that happens within the series. Like, a lot of the time, like, they leave out certain things about how other people are being affected. You get the main characters who obviously are going to live, but you need some characters where it's like you're going to put people on the edge of their seats. At one point, I think in like the middle of the show, that one of the kids he falls from like a tram type thing, and he disappears, and you're like, oh man, this guy's dead, because he gets yanked by like a pterosaur, and you're like, oh, this guy is for sure dead. So, well, this got a little bit more serious than we really thought, and Chaos Theory gets even more serious, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I just like that it gives us a different kind of Jurassic World story. It's like more of like a survivor type series rather than people that are already involved with the park. It's more people who come from different walks of life, and they get thrown into the situation and have to figure out how to survive, which personally is almost kind of more interesting than the other stories, just because it's like people that already know about dinosaurs, someone who worked at the park, someone who was in the military. And it's like, yeah, those are interesting, but it's like they're very prepared for this world. These guys aren't prepared to be around dinosaurs in a survival situation. So it gives an interesting little side story within the Jurassic World universe. And so that kind of brings you up to speed a little bit with Camp Cretaceous. If you haven't seen it, go watch that show as well. There's like 5 seasons of it, I think, on Netflix, and there's 1 season of Chaos Theory. By the way, if you haven't watched the shows yet, maybe go watch those first and then come back and we'll keep talking. But, just a forewarning. So up next, we're going to talk about Chaos Theory and the kids being hunted, which is crazy. So the new series, it takes place a few years after, I think maybe 6 years after. So it takes place, I believe, canonically, between Fallen Kingdom and Jurassic World Dominion. And things get crazy. We are kind of like thrown in because the 6 kids who were all like pretty much friends, they all kind of went back to their own lives, and like they're still friends, but they're living farther away from each other. They're all older. Some things have happened, like Brooklyn. So in Camp Cretaceous, she was like a vlogger, social media star type character, because the kids are all younger and it takes place during 2015, so it kind of makes sense. But so in this, she's grown up and she's more like an investigative journalist. But Brooklyn, has died, and she died off screen between the shows. We don't know why, but apparently she was eaten by a dinosaur that was wandering around, I think like Colorado or something. And Darius was supposed to meet up with her, and it went crazy. And it was an Allosaurus. So Darius has been trying to track down the Allosaurus because, he kind of has like this vengeance out for it. He's like, oh, I love dinosaurs, but this one killed my friend. And they all are kind of like, oh my gosh, someone's dead. So already you're thrown into this new series, like things are getting real and it's wild. But I kind of like it because they're already just like, let's throw things at them and just make it a different kind of story. Because this one, because they're not on the island, it is not as directly involved with dinosaurs. They're telling a different kind of story, and dinosaurs just kind of happen to be there, which I think is great. Because after the events of Fallen Kingdom, where all the dinosaurs were released, we've had like the Battle at Big Rock, where people are feeling the aftermath of dinosaurs being released into the world. And those kind of stories are interesting because, like I said, with Camp Cretaceous, it's people who are not prepared to be around dinosaurs. So you kind of get a bit different of a story because people have to figure out how to coexist with these creatures or lock them up and send them away or kill them or whatever. So you just have the aftermath causing all these problems. And then it leads to like some conspiracy stuff in Chaos Theory. It's freaking awesome. So they have like this version of like sort of like a dark web website. It's called Dark Jurassic. And kind of that's what like sets off the whole story because Ben, he's one of the original characters. He had discovered this site. And like there's a bunch of conspiracy theories on Jurassic World, on dinosaurs, on the different corporations running everything. And he is like, okay, some of this is probably real. So he sends Brooklyn a link to it. So she's getting involved in like investigating things. And so they hint that Brooklyn's death was not an accident. Why was the Allosaurus there at that time? You're like, whoa, things are actually going down. So it was at this point that I realized I was hooked. I was ready to I was buckled in. And this is where I was like, yep, I'm staying up to watch all the episodes, which is kind of easy because they're all like 20 minutes. And I think there's only like 10 episodes. So you can kind of breeze through it really fast. But I was like, oh, things are getting crazy. I'm ready for this. It's pretty sick. So then the kids, they start getting hunted by the Atrociraptors that are in Dominion. So the ones that are kind of like so Atrociraptors are real raptors. They, once again, like most Jurassic World dinosaurs, they don't look like the actual dinosaur is supposed to, but it's the raptors that can be controlled like by sound. And it's like a level further than the Indoraptor in Fallen Kingdom. And this freaky, like, doesn't talk lady is controlling them with like a whistle, and the kids are all being hunted, and they're going on this like investigative journey trying to find out what really happened, who's behind all this, trying to bring people to justice, help some of the dinosaurs along the way, even if they don't like all the dinosaurs. Crazy. It is wild. It is so much fun. If you like the Jurassic World or Jurassic Park movies in any capacity, if you've seen Camp Cretaceous, you will probably be, if you haven't already seen it, you would be hooked as well. It is just one that leaves like every episode off a cliffhanger. You get some new information right in like the last 30 seconds of the episode, and you're like, well, I got to stick around and watch the next bit. And I live for that. I live for a show like that where I'm like, I can't go to sleep without watching the next episode. It's not entirely healthy for that, but that is the kind of energy it provides. And I like that it's a new story that keeps them grounded in like a real world situation, not a real world situation, but on a more grounded situation where they're not just on an island. They're not in an isolated event. This could be happening all over the world. And it kind of like focuses on something that, although the movies have tried to focus on it a little bit, they haven't been able to dive into it very deep, which is like focusing on like the evil corporations that say they care about the dinosaurs and are trying to protect them and, you know, relocate them so that they can be all fine, kind of like a zoo or a wildlife refuge would do. But these ones are a bit more corrupt. And so like the main one is like, it's like a new government agency, the Department of Prehistoric Wildlife. And like they're supposed to be rounding up the dinosaurs and be taking them away, but they end up like taking money for them and, you know, sending them into different areas and, you know, smuggling them. And so it kind of just has all these intricate little things connecting it, and you just are trying to piece together the puzzle the entire time. And it's so much fun. I enjoy it so much, getting a show like this that has all my favorite things. They have dinosaurs, they have mystery type stuff, they have dinosaurs. It's great. I love it. It is so much fun. And let's get into our last little point. It's a new Dinosaur Adventure, because they leave the series off ready to go out. They're going to have more seasons. I already know they're going to have more seasons, and I'm ready for it. I looked it up earlier because now I was curious, because I want more, because they leave it off in such a crazy way, and I want the story to finish. And I was like, when are they going to release it? And thankfully with Chaos Theory, I think just because they're shorter episodes, and I think they kind of plan them out a lot longer, it said that the next season is supposed to be more like at the end of this year, between like September and December, which I think would be fantastic. And, you know, clearly I'm excited about the show because it's so much fun. And, you know, as we kind of go through the series a bit more, you learned that they were right. Brooklyn's death was not an accident. In fact, I think his director, Guerrera, I think was his name. He's like the head of the Department of Prehistoric Wildlife, and who's been getting deals to smuggle dinosaurs out. But so he confirmed that the Allosaurus was purposely there, and that it was meant to scare Brooklyn, but it wasn't supposed to kill her. And so he was kind of like, I'm sorry about that, but casualties. So she was getting too much into our organization. We didn't really want her to figure any of that out. And so you're like, what was happening? And you learn like dinosaurs are being shipped off to black market sites like they have in Dominion. They even go to a black market site, I believe in Malta. I can't remember the actual place in Dominion. I haven't watched Dominion in a while, but I know that they have like a black market source for dinosaurs. And, you know, you're learning, was Brooklyn involved? Because as you're talking to different people, they're like, she wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty. And they go to her old apartment and find money. And you're like, excuse me? Was she trying to buy the Allosaurus? Was she learning more truth about the underground dealings, trying to expose things? She going under deep cover? Who knows? Who knows? It is wild. It is so much fun. I love these kind of shows where you can just piece things together and you're with the characters like, what is going on? What is happening? I'm living for this. And clearly I am living for it because it's so much fun. I love it. I love it so much. And then, spoiler warning, this is the biggest spoiler warning you're going to get. If you haven't watched the entire series, skip past this point, like probably by like a minute or so. I don't know. Or just go watch the series and then come back. And Brooklyn is still alive. What? It was okay. Like, and maybe that wasn't like a huge shock. And I knew it. I knew it from the beginning. I was like, she's not actually dead. They didn't ever show us a body. They would show us like a blood spot. And, you know, I was kind of like, and everyone was like, oh, she got eaten. And it's like, yeah, she could have. But we didn't see anything. They only heard things. What really happened? She's still alive. And when it happened on screen, I was like, I knew it. I knew it. I knew she was still alive because I know how these shows play out. Plus, it's a kid's show, so you don't really want to kill off any major characters. Though, surprisingly, a lot of death happens in both of these series, which is it's not hugely surprising because they are on a island or on the mainland with dinosaurs around, and there are carnivorous dinosaurs, and so people are getting eaten. But it is a kid's show, so you kind of don't expect it, but then it happens, you're like, whoa, that was crazy. But anyways, Brooklyn is still alive, and, you know, you end off being like, I'm always like one step ahead, or I'm careful, even when I'm not. And then you see Brooklyn, and her hair's like pretty much shaved off. It's super short. She looks kind of like Ellen Ripley in Alien, but she's like missing a hand, which is clearly where the Allosaurus got her, but that means she made it away. And what? I was like, oh my gosh, I need more of this series because she's still alive. And then all the kids, so when they find out about this like black market stuff, they're originally all going to go back home. So Guerrero, who was responsible for, you know, the Allosaurus attacking Brooklyn, and they all still think she's dead. He dies by the Atrociraptors because, you know, he was getting a little bit too cocky. And they were like, well, seems like that's been solved. But then all these dinosaurs are going to black market sites. And so they're like, we may have to help solve this and bring people to justice. And I'm like, all right, this is what I'm talking about. And so they go off. And so clearly we have some more. There's stuff left over for this series. And I'm living for it. If it wasn't clear by how many times I've said it throughout this episode, I love it so much. And I can't wait for the next season of Chaos Theory. So that was my little analysis rant about Chaos Theory. Hopefully you enjoyed, if you could follow my incessant rambling, but it was great. If you haven't watched it, you should. You are missing out because it's so much fun. So go watch it. So let's give my rating to Chaos Theory. And if you don't know the easily entertained rating scale, let's go from least to worst. It is garbage, once is fine, right mood, quotable, go to, and all day, every day. And Chaos Theory, I'm going to put garbage because it's not done. It's pissing me off because I want more. But for real though, it is probably, I would say so far, it's a go-to. It is better than Camp Cretaceous. I think just because they're adults and it's a bit more of an adult story. So I feel like it's more for me than Camp Cretaceous was. Camp Cretaceous, I'd probably still put as a go-to as well, or quotable, because like they're both pretty good. But I would say that Chaos Theory is for sure a go-to right now. It could become, it's like really close to me for an all day, every day, because I was that hooked. But I have only seen it once so far, and I will probably rewatch that season when season 2 comes out, and we'll see if that remains. So for now, we're going to put Chaos Theory at a go-to. And we have our question of the week before we leave. And because it's Jurassic World, and we did use this question when we talked about Jurassic Park: The Lost World, I don't care, because pretty much anytime we talk about dinosaurs, this will probably be our question of the week, because I love this question, and I love, asking people, because I love talking about them. And it is, what is your favorite dinosaur? I have 2. Not just kidding. I have 3. I have 3 favorite dinosaurs, all for different reasons. But I just think dinosaurs are awesome. So let me know, what is your favorite dinosaur? Mine, I may give the reasons, I may not, is the Allosaurus, the Carnotaurus, and the Utah Raptor. Allosaurus, I just think is really cool, and it's my state's fossil for Utah, because there have been so many Allosaurus found out here, which I think is awesome, and I just think Allosaurus is really cool. The Carnotaurus, I love, and that was like my favorite from pretty much a young age. One, because of the movie Dinosaur, which was released during the year I was born, funny enough. 2000? Yes, that's when that one was released. Correct. And because in an anime show that I would watch as a kid, Dinosaur King, that was one of the main dinosaurs that was in it, was Carnotaurus. Fantastic. And then Utah Raptor. Once again, I am from Utah. And one, I think it's cool that the Utah Raptor is what Jurassic Park raptors are more like. Because originally they would say they're more like Deinonychus, but I think Utah Raptor is a more apt description because they are just bigger, and a Utah Raptor would be a lot closer to the size that Jurassic Park raptors are. And I also am a big raptor fan. I think raptors are just cool, whether they hunt in packs or not, if they're feathered or not, which they most likely were. They're just fun. They're fun to learn about, and I think they're interesting. So those are my 3. If you have a favorite dinosaur, let us know. Or even if you don't have a favorite, but you just like a specific dinosaur, comment that either here on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, wherever. Let us know what is your favorite dinosaur. And that is it for this episode of Easily Entertained. I hope you enjoyed my incessant rambling as we talked about dinosaurs and Jurassic World, because I always find it very enjoyable. And until next time, we'll see ya. Bye. You have been entertained.